Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. It's a Tuesday night. It's a little confusing because we had the Labor Day holiday, but here we are just a couple of days from the opening game of football of the 2024 season. I am Vlad Sedler with FTN Fantasy, and I'm going to be doing a draft from the 5 spot NFFC Online Championship. It's third round reversal, pays the top 2 in the league, and it's got a 250,000 overall dollar prize and probably about 5,000 or so people competing. Actually, it's up to 251,000 now. So more people get in, more money gets in. And we're going to get started here in a few minutes. Draft kicks off at 11:55 Eastern, but screw Eastern, man. Those people are sleeping. We're here on the West Coast, and I'm joined by the one and only one of my best friends in the industry, and one of the coolest dudes I know, Sammy Reid. What's going on, Sammy?
What's up, brother? I thought I was done with draft season, but I got pulled in for one last job, so I'm excited to do this with you.
I love it, dude. Yeah, we're gonna break things down. We're gonna probably get through. We'll see, maybe like 10 or 12 rounds. Probably stick around here for about an hour or so. And yeah, I mean, it's just your standard 12 team. It's PPR. It's 20 rounds. So half of that is your bench. I know you've got a lot of experience drafting in these puppies over the years. I wanted to ask you, with the player pool this season and the way things are shaping out, I know you've been drafting like a beast over the last couple of weeks. What draft area range are you most comfortable in kicking drafts off?
I mean, definitely. I think everybody who's been drafting, the 10, 11, 12 never comes out that pumped with it. And I mean, last year people weren't either. And, you got like CD and Amon-Ra. So we kind of never know what's going to happen. But I feel very comfortable kind of in the middle of the draft because like where we're picking number 5 is great. Like to me, there's like 5 players that I really want in the first round. And there's other players like I also want, but for me, it's the big 3 running backs, and it's Tyreek, and it's CeeDee Lamb. And, I'm fine with Justin Jefferson. He's great. I feel fine with a guy like Garrett Wilson. I think he's going to have a monster season and, could do like CeeDee Lamb things from last year. But if we're talking like the guys I feel really comfortable with taking, it's a top 5. And then I feel like it still sets you up in the next couple rounds to do things that you like also. So it's just like that spot where, dude, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get out of these first 3 rounds with at least 1 running back that I really like and 2 receivers I really like, no matter which way we want to cut it. So like we have the number 5 pick. What would you like to see happen?
I did not share the right screen. So, I'm comfortable there. I know the mid-range, like the 4 through 8 is where I'm really comfortable. I've been switching it up. This is OC number 6 for me. And I've had a 1 pick. I've had, some in the 7, 8, 9 range, but 5 is a good spot because as you said, I'm comfortable with any 5 of those guys that end up falling. And, honestly, if it was a 6, 7, or 8, grabbing somebody like a Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, or Garrett Wilson to kick off a draft is very comfortable. The recent, Jamar Chase sort of hold in is a little concerning. You just kind of want to kick things off on the right foot. You want your players to be kind of full bore, just, kind of with it. And there's just so many question marks around that. So I've seen Chase slip, but not too crazy, to be honest. I mean, the drafts over the last 2-3 days, he hasn't gone beyond pick 11. As I think people are scared to let him kind of go there past the turn.
Yeah, people saw what happened with Ohtani for those 3 days back in April or in March, and they're like, you know what, we can't let this happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine getting like 45 Ohtani in the middle of the second? I mean, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I started drafting baseball like, mid-November. I'm like, wait a second, Shohei Ohtani's going in the early second round. I got to get in this,
Yeah.
So started drafting. I wonder who will there be an Ohtani in this in the draft this season? If you had to pick one guy that will just end up as the top fantasy value, who would you say most fantasy points?
Like just most total fantasy points?
Yeah.
That's not like a super high pick?
Oh no, just overall, like the high pick.
Oh God, I'm just gonna go McCaffrey. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm taking the chalk. Until CMC proves to us that he's not gonna be the guy, then he's the guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was telling you before the show, and honestly, hate to put, bad omens on anything or whatever, but this time last year when McCaffrey was going 5-6 in some drafts, I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is going to be the number one scorer this year. He's going to stay healthy. Just take him, wherever I can. And I would take him as high as 1. This year, I'm the exact opposite, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It's really stupid, like playing the injury predictions game. But, kind of kicking things off with a calf injury and everything. I'm sure he'll be fine. We hope he'll be fine. But just, something I'm putting out there. But I should stop with the bad juju there.
Well, he hasn't gone in the first 2 picks, so let's see if they put you in a tough spot here.
All right. There's McCaffrey at 3. By the way, Breece Hall, since the first week in NFFC, the New York events, Chris Vaccaro, who's a phenomenal player, one of the best high stakes players around, he was popping Breece Hall 1 overall there live in New York. And we've seen a little trend since then. Guys like Vaccaro, our guy Nelson Souza, FTN, these guys are trendsetters and people follow. It makes sense, right? I mean, it's better to follow people that win, people that don't, I guess.
All right. So the top 4 went here. I'm a Bijan guy, but I'll defer to you. I think there's no issues with taking, like, every time I draft with Davis, he's like, dude, we're taking Justin Jefferson. Yeah, best receiver in the NFL. We're taking him number 5. And I'm like, no, dude, come on, take the running back. And he won't do it. But you have a little boomer in you like me. So
yeah,
I assume you're a team running back here.
Yeah, let's do that. And listen, I have definitely adapted to the anti-boomer. You learn from experience. Like if I'm going too heavy running back the last few seasons, and you're ending up having to kind of, you have the incorrect timing with a lot of your receivers. If you have a lot of guys in the sort of like 5th to 10th round range, and you're guessing on who you want to play at wide receiver 3, and it isn't just like very spelled out for you, you end up getting in trouble. You ended up missing out on fantasy points. And it's really important in this format to have that depth at wide receiver. But in certain cases, like, where we are here in the 5, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't think there's, like, I've definitely seen some good RB builds. Like it certainly is possible. But I think most of the people that are doing a lot of fantasy, that are really dug into the data, they're doing wide receiver heavy builds. And I think a wide receiver heavy build, for the reasons why people start doing 0 RB in the beginning, is like the optimal thing to do. Look, Jamar Chase falls to 10 here. I'm big on heavy wide receiver builds, and I've been doing them pretty consistently. But I like hero RB. I really like having that one guy, because the reality is the most league winners come from the running back position, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of busts come from it too. Like, you're going to have a minefield. But the reality is, like, if you look consistently, like, who is winning the leagues, it's running backs. So you kind of like hope you have the right one and build a big team around it. The idea of like not drafting your first running back to like round 6, round 7, and just getting a bunch of guys, like, I feel like that's a little too much opium, at least for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely with you on that. And especially when it gets in that range and you're just loaded up on, the Jerome Fords, Devin Singletaries, Tony Pollards of the world. And all of a sudden it's like, it's a big Tajai Spears game, and, Pollard isn't that good. And then you're like, oh, let me sit Pollard this week. And then he goes off the next week. It's just so tough to chase, and you have to pick your spots and your starting rosters where you want to take those chances.
Yeah. And, it makes me think a lot about the way I want to approach fantasy baseball next year as well. I went with a lot of pretty pitching heavy builds this year. We've talked about this on baseball pods, and I just didn't feel like at the end of the year that like served me that well. Like I was too light on hitting. And, I've always likened like starting pitching to the running back position, right? Mm-hmm. They're the ones who win you leagues, but there's such a high rate of attrition, a high rate of like skill drop off, a high rate of injury, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I think going like hero SP is more what I want to do next year, as opposed to like heavy. And that's kind of what I want to do with football as well.
Yeah. So here we are coming up around the turn. I'm kind of bummed. I don't know if you were into Cooper Kupp, but I'm
an anti Cooper Cupper. I'm a hater. So I'm glad that he went. Cooper Kupp to me is just, and sorry if you're a guy, but like Cooper Kupp is a guy that I have really fond memories of. By the way, let's make our pick.
Yeah, so I'm looking here at. I mean, I think at least to me the standout here is Chris Olave, the wide receiver. If we want to go double boomer, we can go with Devin Achan. That would be a little crazy. I mean, we're going for 250,000 here.
But let me just tell you, I am all in on Achan this year. I'm like,
you are.
I'm fully in.
Me too. I think he could be the number one, like straight up.
Dude, let's just
do it. Let's do it.
Let's just do this and like just smash wide receivers. Like,
yeah.
Achan is a guy. If I could leave every draft with him, I'd do it because the guys that we grew up playing fantasy football with that had this really kind of uncommon speed.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Johnson, Jamal Charles, right? And they were both super fast, and they were both bigger than like you'd expect from a person that fast. They weren't big backs, but they were bigger than like you'd think. And Achan kind of reminds me of that. And we don't have guys like that anymore. The princes that were promised, Saquon Barkley, a lot of them have not panned out. And to me, Achan has that kind of ability, and he's also on the team that I think can make the best use of him. Do I expect Devin Achan to ever be a bow cow? Not really, right? But that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he will be put in superior positions. The fact that they have been using him in the slot a lot,
Huge.
And not just like, oh yeah, we're going to use him in the slot. Like, they never do that. But the fact that they've actually been doing it in preseason, to me, signals like they've had such a narrow tree in terms of like what they do with the ball, right? It's Waddle and Hill. And so to add another guy who's dynamic in both the passing and running game, I think he's just going to get a ton of high value touches. And I think we're going to be really happy with that. So I'm huge on Achan.
Yeah, it is a similar situation. Again, we're going back to baseball. If you don't like baseball, I'm so sorry. But this is an Ohtani-ish type pick. And especially, back then it was he's not pitching, and his arm and everything. And the gambling stuff and just like distractions, right? And here you've got, he was hurt a little bit last year. You got Raheem Mostert, who had nearly around 20 rushing touchdowns last season, or total touchdowns. And then you've got Jalen Wright, who is very popular. I mean, he's going around 100, 110 ADP, and all these things are. And of course, it could not work out, but in some ways, they're almost like distractions from the prize. Where a year from now, I'll be like, "Damn, why didn't we take him at the the end of the first round?"
Yeah, bro. I mean, week one, when this guy's breaking off a 60-yarder untouched, you're gonna be like, "Why do I have Devin Achan? Why do I take freaking Isaiah Pacheco? Who looks like he's having a seizure every time he gets a handoff? Like, why did I do that?" It's gonna be fun. Let's talk about Cooper Kupp for a minute, because I'm very open to the other side of Kupp. But he's not my guy. So is he a Vlad guy?
No, he's Vlad. I mean, it's Cooper Kupp, right? It's like, if he is healthy, to me, and he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 5 wideout. I think you got Puka Nacua, who I already think is a little hurt, or has been hurt, and I don't think he's at full strength. I think Kupp is going to. I think, again, last year we were distracted a little bit with all the injuries, and then when he came back, he wasn't full Kupp, and I think he's going to bounce back to that. And the price has been soaring, right? I mean, definitely Nelson has, I think, played a part in that a little bit. He's definitely been drafting him early. And he also knows the Rams and the Rams people. So he probably has some intel behind that as well. But yeah, it really just comes down to him staying healthy. There does come a point where it does start to be a little risky, and right around where he's going is that. But like, if it's him versus Devontae Adams, who, like, I don't know if it's true or not, like, isn't even practicing with his team, and is just so disenchanted, and who knows what we're going to get out of that. Give me Cooper Kupp over Adams all day.
Yeah. I think I worry about Kupp, about where he's going. You know what I mean? Like, the window for eliteness in football is so small. And I fear that we've seen it from Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's a 31-year-old who's had 2 career 1,000-yard seasons. And all of a sudden there's a new sheriff in town. There's a new young buck. And, you know, sometimes like throughout history, we see this, right? We saw it with Isaac Bruce, you know, passing the torch to Torrey Holt, who ended up being fantastic. We saw Marvin Harrison pass the torch to Reggie Wayne. We saw Rice, after quite a while, actually pass it to Terrell Owens. We saw Chris Carter pass it to Randy Moss. And at some point, the guy who was the star aged out, and the guy who is going to be the next star came through and became the guy. And I just kind of see that happening in LA. And that's not to say Cooper Kupp's going to be bad. I mean, the guy is immensely skilled. But when you have to take him like early second, to me, it's like, not sure about that one, Chief. It's just not something I've been doing.
So here we are. We are on the clock.
All right.
Thankfully, a couple of running backs just went because we got an F-bomb thrown after we took Achan, by the way, in the draft room. So that is definitely a plus.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Let's tilt some fools.
Let's tilt. Yeah. What do you, I mean, I got a couple of receivers on the top of my draft board. Let's see if it matches what you're looking for.
Yeah. I have at the top, I have Brandon Ayuk and Evans and Devontae Smith. So,
sweet. And I think Devontae, is he still there? Let's do Ayuk, man. I'm happy with it if you are.
Cool. Totally.
All right. Let's
man got his bag.
Yeah. Got his bag. He's good.
I mean,
by the way,
you know how many targets Brandon Ayuk had last year?
138.
I feel like it was like 110. Hold on, let me.
Well, he was a huge yards per reception guy. I mean, he's
105.
105. Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, everybody on that offense is just like so mega efficient that like it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, everybody eats on the Niners. You know, some problems with the defense, obviously, but Debo in, you know, they say, oh, the best shape of his life. But I mean, listen, Debo in the best shape of his, I mean, if you're telling me he wasn't playing in the best shape of his life previously, like, like shoot, man, that's somebody that I want.
Good luck tackling that boy. I'll say this. So with our current build, you know, I think the one thing taking a couple of running backs early does is makes me not want to take tight end or quarterback that early, right? Because
same page.
Yeah, I feel like the worst thing you can do is fall behind a wide receiver because it dries up. Like there's some point where you're like, shit, I don't like any of these guys anymore. So, you know, I've started 2 running backs almost never this year. So I'm excited to like see where this goes. But I want to be very conscious with this team of not, you know, falling behind. Oh, you know, Dalton Kincaid's here or whatever. And like, oh, it's such, you know, Laporta, such a good pick, such good value. Like we will fall behind. So I think we want to use those picks that we might have used for like RB2 type of guys where we'd start, you know, looking at like Warren, Pollard, and Chase Brown and these kind of dudes. That's the point where we want to like start snapping up like our onesie positions, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And especially because in this format, the quarterbacks, it's 6 points per passing touchdown. So there will be some pocket guys that we can shoot for later. And also, you know, most of my OC so far, I do have most of the top guys. Like I think I have 2 of Hurts. I've got a couple Love, who I guess is sort of the next top tier. I've got a Stroud and a Lamar and an Anthony Richardson. So I'm honestly in this format in previous years, I've had a lot of success just kind of waiting. The only problem is when you start to middle yourself. Like if you're going later down the board and you have like a Dak and a Cousins or, you know, Jaden, or Jalen Daniels and, you know, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers, like you'll be in a really tough spot having to, you know, decide who to play every week. So it's almost better to at least, you know, grab a top 10 guy, but just don't chase it. Like kind of wait for that quarterback to drop to you.
Yeah. All right. So these guys are all snapping onesies. Unfortunately, Devontae Smith went because I would have been mega pumped if Devontae Smith made it to us.
He's gone. Yeah. I have one guy that I want to push for here. I don't know if you're comfortable with it here. So I got this thing I've been doing for years. I didn't do it as an article this year, but I did add it in the FTN High Stakes Discord, and it's like the golden zone wide receivers. These are the guys that go in rounds 4, 3 to 5. And it did lead me to Diggs, Stephon Diggs, when everybody was kind of off him and he was going 60, 70th overall with his new team Buffalo in 2020. Diggs was my guy. In 2021, it was Kupp. Last year, it was like a thing between Christian Watson that did not work out, DJ Moore that did.
Yeah.
But this guy's going to wait for this guy to pick here right before us. But he's not like the next receiver on the board. But I'm hoping you're into him. But it's not the next guy's on ADP. It's not Pittman, Metcalf.
Yeah. So I will say, like, I do have Mike Evans ahead of him, but I'm very into Diggs. And the reason I'm into Diggs is there are like a handful of offenses. There's basically 4 offenses this year that were not elite last year that I think really ascend to that elite level this year, where we want all their fantasy players. And they're not necessarily teams that like other people aren't on, but it's the Chiefs.
Wait, Sammy, real quick before I'm so sorry. I was saying that I like Diggs too. I was saying he was like my 2020 like kind of smash, but the guy that I was like kind of building up and referring to was Zay
Flowers.
Yeah. Do you like Zay?
Shit. It feels early to me. I'm gonna be real honest with you.
Okay. All right.
But we draft on vibes. So fucking take him.
Are you cool? Cool. Yeah, you got the next 2. All right, just let me.
Yeah, why not?
This is like
Sorry, I stopped at the Diggs. I'm like, oh yeah, I like Diggs too.
This actually is.
Let me take it from here.
I'm so sorry. No, this is actually the range he's been drafted in prime times, like in the 40 to 45 range. So I know it's like Evans. You know what you're getting every year. The dude scores like double-digit touchdowns all the time. Pittman's still there. People were kind of down on him this year. Metcalf is.
I'm down on Pittman. I will say this: it is actually not too early for Zay. I have Zay as the 45th overall player, so it's not too early for him. I guess I just had a couple of guys still before him. Like I do have Diggs over him. I do have Mike Evans over him. But totally get it.
All right, I'm gonna defer to you on the next ones. I kind of.
Well, I mean, the next one is real easy for me if he's there. I'm just vibing with Xavier Worthy. So.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no one here is listening.
If somebody else takes him, I don't give a shit. There's plenty of other dudes around there, but that's my dude.
By the way, we got a couple of friends that we signed up for this draft and then realized John Fish is in the building. The legendary John Fish.
Oh, what's up, Johnny?
Johnny is in here. And I don't know if he said it was okay for me to say his name, but I'll deal with the repercussions later. Dr. Dave McDonald is in this draft as well. So.
Oh boy. I didn't even know that. This is news to me.
He's at the 1. Oh, and I just gave up a spot, so I hope you got no secrets here. Yeah.
Man, he's having a good draft.
Yeah, not too bad.
Hate to see that. Yeah, it totally makes sense that he passed on McCaffrey.
By the way, the Rashee Rice helium has been off the charts. Like at what point? Yeah, no, he in New York prime times this weekend. These $1,750 entry drafts. He's been going second round.
Yeah.
I've seen second round Rice.
So for me, that's probably a bit high, but I shouldn't say that because at the same time, I feel like he's this year's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, remember of 2022, remember that at the end of that season, Amon-Ra, like in the second half of the year, was like top 5 in the NFL in receptions and just like did so much that we were like, oh, hell yeah. Mm-hmm. But that following year, he didn't go that high. Like he wasn't going second round or third round like Rashee Rice is. But I feel like Rashee Rice kind of has a similar path to success, right? He's kind of that kind of player. He's more of a slot guy, more of an intermediate guy, a catch and run guy, like high reception floor guy. He's playing with an excellent quarterback. There's a reason why Rashee Rice is popular, and I think it's totally warranted. That said, as guys start to get up, like in the second round, you're kind of squeezing a lot of that value out. So, I personally wouldn't take him that early, but I'm huge on Rashee Rice. So,
what about some of the discussions of the Chiefs, like because their defense is better, not really having to push it, from like a fantasy perspective and not just like kind of like, keeping their foot on the gas pedal all the time, but we're still going to see those games. There'll be games where they're challenged. I think that's maybe kind of overthinking it a bit.
Well, for sure. And the reality is Andy Reid has always been a big time pass rate over expectation guy. Like he wants to throw the rock. Like that's what he does. And so for me, when you're looking at what the Chiefs want to accomplish, I think they looked at their team last year and they were like, wow, we were kind of lucky to win the Super Bowl. Like they were not a top offense by any stretch. Mahomes at his worst season. And so what did they do? They said, our offense really hasn't been the same since Tyreek Hill left. And so what are we going to do? We're going to get speed. We're going to get Hollywood Brown. We're going to trade up to draft Xavier Worthy. We're going to do these things and we want to fly again. Yeah. And I think everything they've done, their actions have told us that they want to fly. They want to throw the ball deep. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best throwers of the football that we've ever seen. And so for us, it's just like they can't have what they had last year, this dink and dunk low ADOT BS offense. And I think they told us what they want to do. They showed us what they want to do. And so for me, that's why I'm huge on Xavier Worthy. You know, I hate to throw the Tyreek Hill out there, like anyone can be Tyreek Hill. But if somebody can, to me, it's Xavier Worthy. And
speaking of which, we're on the clock. He's got a primetime ADP of 60, and we're 56. Is he your pick here?
That's my pick.
All right, let's do it.
Slam dunk. X-Worth.
X-Worth.
And it's also nice with Flowers because Flowers is like a very high, like kind of a lower ADOT, high reception guy. And so, you know, pairing him with a guy who, you know, I don't expect Worthy to catch 7 balls a game, right? He is going to be the game breaker, but you know, he wasn't just like a deep guy in college. Like he had a really kind of diverse route tree and showed that he could like make contested catches and things like this. Like I think Worthy's like legitimately good. And the fact that they traded up, they traded draft capital to get him. They said, this guy's going to make our team work. That was like, that was a pick that they wanted to get and they went out of their way to get. To me, I'm going to follow what they're doing.
I dig it. Yeah. So yeah, we got a nice base here. I mean, so, and again, this is, listen, it would be, we want to win the league, but we're shooting for the moon. We're shooting for the upside. 5,000 teams. You win an overall with a balance of, you know, the nice solid plays that aren't going to really kind of bust you and get you like, you know, 10 fantasy points on occasion, you know, per week. And with our core of running backs here, right? With Bijan and Achane. And you got Ayuk, an every week performer. Zay Flowers, I really think is going to take a next step. I think he's legitimately a top guy this year. And then Worthy is one of those like high flying picks. Like, you know, hopefully, you know, we're not benching him on a week where he, you know, catches 3 balls for like 180 or whatever. But yeah, we're shooting for 250K here.
Yeah. So when we look at the tight end landscape, you know, we've kind of like gotten past those top end guys. Certainly like Pitts and Kittle are still here.
I'm open.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I think I'd still probably rather take another receiver, I think.
Yeah, and there's still I mean, we're coming up here. Listen, if people are in the draft before us and they're listening, so be it.
Well, let's wait for Dr. Dave to pass, and then we'll see.
Oh yeah. Well, no, well, it actually doesn't matter because Dr. Dave he will not be swayed by other people. He's probably got his draft mapped out. He's not going to be swayed by us. But yeah, I mean, as far as the just receivers that we're looking at, you obviously got you know, top guys on our board, Calvin Ridley with the Titans, who kind of knows what to expect there. Used to be a huge Calvin Ridley guy, you know, pre-suspension. He was phenomenal with Atlanta. Got Deontay Johnson, probably a lot of bad, you know, negative game scripts. There's going to be a lot of, you know, second half passing. Deontay, I like. Jackson Smith, JSN is like, everybody loves JSN. Like he's another guy that could surprise and catch like 95 plus balls, I think.
Yeah. I also love JSN. So
that's a nice steady pick.
Yeah. Super good. I think team 4 takes Lamar Jackson. Team 3 is going to take a receiver.
Yeah. Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson pairing makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, I think that's it. But if they don't, I mean, even though we want to go receiver heavy, I would highly consider Lamar Jackson here in the middle of the 6th, bro.
Yeah, I would too. I think I'm good waiting on the tight end. There are a few guys I like. I guess I got some guys for us like way late that
Yeah.
I think are going to smash. I like pairing like a high upside, low floor worthy with like a JSN does seem kind of nice. But also so
Yeah.
is getting somebody
I'm
like Lamar.
I'm a JSN truther. I'm big on JSN. I like his prospect profile. I like the post hype sleeper just archetype. Um, very, very into him.
Yeah, and especially with like Lockett on the wrong side of 30 and probably, already banged up and is kind of taking a step back. Like, listen, Tyler Lockett's been great to us. He's got other things going on, by the way. He's got like a real estate company. He's like selling property. Like, guy's like just everything. He's amazing. But I think it's time to kind of flip that script. You got, Metcalf, the 1A, and then JSN kind of steps up there. So
Yeah.
either way, him or Lamar, I'm happy with. If not, I think there are a few guys later. The decision's been made for us. It
Told
appears.
you. I also will say I do like Odunze. Um, I actually have Odunze ranked above JSN, but I don't feel strongly about it. I really like them both. So
Let's go with your pick, and then if we want to go old and boring, there's
well,
also Chris Godwin, PPR
in
monster.
fairness, I did already get to take Worthy. So you only want to have so many guys who have never played an NFL game before. I find myself grabbing a lot of these guys. So
Christian Kirk not in the mix for you here.
mhm. I mean, he's higher on my board, but I end up always taking JSN or Odunze.
All right,
So
you
let's
pick.
freaking take JSN, man. Let's
All
go
right.
heavy vibes on this draft. Let's just
Yeah,
take a bunch of
vibes.
guys we really believe in. Like
Yep.
we both like Bijan, we both believe in A Chain. You got the vibe on Flowers. I got the vibe on Worthy. We both have the vibe on JSN. Like, dude, we're trying to win $250,000. Like,
Yeah.
let's draft vibe. We're at the end of draft season here. You know what I mean? Like, the ADP has been shuffled out, all that stuff. I don't say I throw it out the window because I want to like maximize and optimize my picks, but like, at the end of the day, I know who I like, and I want to get a team full of dudes that I like.
You know what else is good is when people are drafting high volume in these contests, you also get the tunnel vision. You're just locked in. You're getting your guys. You're like, we all know, everyone all know our football and our fantasy. We've been doing it for 20 plus years, but with that comes biases and things like that. So it's really good to kind of lean into like the partner, right? Like we didn't plan this. We weren't like for a week, like, oh, we're going to do this OC live stream draft. I just hollered at you like, a couple hours ago. Hey, let's draft a team live. And we haven't even talked much strategy this year. So we're just kind of figuring it on the spot as we go. And then we're making each other kind of, maybe take some picks we're not fully comfortable with, but I think from that sometimes comes like a better blend. So there's a lot of benefit, I think, to the partner.
Totally. And I will say, like, looking at some of the quote unquote dead zone running backs, like Tony Pollard just went on the 5-6 turn. I feel real good about taking Bijan and A-Chain at the beginning when that sort of stuff happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones a lot, actually, but the reality is this, Vlad. Football is a young man's sport. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a young man's game. And I want a bunch of young men on my team. Like, I want young dudes with a lot of talent. I also think football is very much, fantasy football especially, it's different than baseball. Like, baseball, we talk about this a lot. There are no league winners, right? You have to have a complete team. You're playing in a 15-team league, something like that. You need to have a complete team of, like, solid contributors. You have to do this. In football, you don't. In football, you need the league winners. You need the right guys. I mean, that's just the reality. Like, you should be shooting for upside in almost all situations. That's, to me, not to say you should always take risky players, but your goal should be maximizing upside, not creating floor in general.
Yep.
I will say this. Speaking of, we're going for upside, this and that. One guy that to me has become super undervalued is Keenan Allen. And I say this as somebody who likes Odunze. The fat Keenan hate has gone really far. And, I look at our team, and not that we need to take a fifth receiver here. We can look elsewhere. But like with guys like Worthy and JSN, who are like kind of really high risk, high reward guys, I like taking a guy like Keenan Allen and adding him to this kind of mix because, Keenan Allen, dude, this guy caught 108 passes last year for 1,250 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he missed 4 games.
Yeah.
And dude, he's older. Isn't that like I don't think he's going to hit those numbers in a full year this year. But he's not dust,
No.
I don't think he's dust. And to in a PPR league to get him a guy like that in the 7th round kind of seems strange to me, I guess.
Yeah, he is super undervalued. I think also in these formats when you're seeing that you hear everything you do that on Twitter, and then you got the Q next to his name when you're drafting, and you just there's just so much, like you said, these like young, fun, exciting players that you want to root for and have on your fantasy team. Is kind of hard to click that Keenan Allen button, but like, come on, I mean, the guy was insane last year. He was top 5 in, there are only a few guys that averaged over 20 fantasy points a game. Like, remember how many times we were playing him in DFS and he's just like 12 for like 160 and a touch.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't always score touchdowns. I know it's like also be wary players on new teams, and it's just like a whole new setup, but like, I just think they'll figure it out. And I think he's a nice safety blanket over there. I think there are a lot of good things going on in Chicago. You had DeAndre Swift. There are a lot of guys that can catch the ball. But Keenan Allen, I agree, is not dust. Dust is a very strong word.
And don't get me wrong, like I'd rather have a Dunze. Like, I have a Dunze overrated ahead of Keenan Allen. But they're a lot closer on my board than they go in drafts. So I will say Kyler Murray was another guy that I was like,
yeah.
And then Kirk. I think I actually would have stand for Kirk because he's kind of a better Keenan Allen.
Yeah, and so we're now getting to the point where this draft is getting a little crazy because a guy like Christian Kirk, to me, doesn't feel like he should be sitting there in the middle of the 7th.
Right.
There are a lot of picks being pushed up, so all these guys we're talking about are still there. It's kind of crazy here.
Yeah.
It is. Even 3 guys that we were just talking about, they're all sitting there on the board right now. Okay, now one has got it. Dunze is gone, but like Keenan Allen and Chris Godwin are sitting there. Like, give me those 2 guys over Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey all day.
For sure, especially with the makeup of our team. Like, we've taken the young upside. We've taken Worthy and JSN. Like, I would be great grabbing there's Godwin. Like, I would be great grabbing a veteran PPR guy here. And then
by the way, Godwin, his ADP in drafts that people spend $2,000 on is 56, and he just went 79. We were 1 pick away. So
yeah,
we're up.
I would turn it in for Keenan Allen. I'm okay going elsewhere as well. Like, I'm never going to be like, God, I got to leave this draft with fucking Keenan Allen.
Well, it's almost like we set up for it, right? Because we do want to get some running back depth. I know they're going early, but I still see a bunch of guys that we can wait on.
But we're close to the end of like the wide receivers that we want, right?
Yeah. Let's do it, and we'll feel comfortable. I think we're comfortable with the start. I think it's a nice team.
Yeah, a little veteran presence. Look at the average age of this team.
Full PPR, Achane or Rice at flex. If you're talking about for week 1, I don't know. You got to play both, but
you see our answer though.
Yeah, our answer.
You see it on the draft board,
as they say on the board.
Yeah. And taking nothing away from Rashee Rice, who I think is going to be an excellent player this year, like very excellent. Okay, so I feel very good about our running back and wide receiver room. So on our next turn, I can definitely see the 4 teams behind us all have tight ends, so we can consider. Did Kittle go? Yeah, Kittle went. Oh, and Ingram went. Okay.
Let me just send my dog out. He's barking at me. Let me just throw him out. Not throw him out, but like, hold on here.
Yeah. I'll just sit here and chat while Vlad's taking care of the dog. Second tight end. All right. Well, so when we're looking at like what we want to do with our next pick, I don't necessarily see a tight end that we want. The highest ones on my board are Njoku and Bowers. And I would like to get one of those guys. Don't get me wrong. So I suppose we could take a shot at one of them. I'm a little more on board with taking a quarterback here because there's quarterbacks behind us, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in front of us on the wide end.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're one of them. So 3 teams on the wide end don't have them. So that means, let's see.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah, you got to always. It's a little harder in a live draft, like when we're drafting and commentating, to like get that, the keeping an eye on what other players are doing to make sure you're optimizing your picks. It's a little easier to do if you're like closer to the turn. You kind of have a good idea what someone's going to do. But nevertheless, you can kind of, the board can be, I guess, telegraphed is the word. You kind of know when, somebody's about to kind of grab the last quarterback or tight end of a tier.
Yeah. So I was just saying, like, Njoku and Bowers are the 2 highest tight ends on my board right now. Interested in both of them.
I'm interested in both. I've seen, the one thing I'll say from playing in this contest, I've seen those guys fall. I do think they are the next 2.
Yeah.
But I've seen them, like, let's see. Yeah, and Njoku has fallen considerably, like a 123 ADP.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with that if he's like my late tight end pick. When we look behind us, there's 1, 2, 3 teams that don't have tight ends.
All right.
So as long as 2 of the 3 don't take one, and if they do, we just vibe. There, to your point, there are a couple later ones that I'm just fine with as well. So
because I'll bring them up in here in a little bit. I just don't want to kill, but I'm going to text you somebody just to look at that. I don't think I mentioned to you is like you can look at his ADP, but he's a tight end. I just have to have in all these drafts, and hopefully you're with me. Yeah.
Sick.
How do you feel about the next quarterbacks on the board? Do you have a strong preference? Anthony Richardson, Jordan Love, those are kind of the next guys to go.
Yeah. Actually, I'd be surprised. No, Dave won't take Anthony Richardson. That doesn't seem like a Dr. Dave guy to take.
Richardson? No. Yeah, Dr. Dave does not like guys that get injured. Anthony Richardson is very injured quite often.
Yeah.
When he's not, he's scoring 4 total touchdowns a game, a couple on the ground.
I think getting Richardson at this point would be pretty freaking sweet. So, but I will say, like, in a 6-point passing touchdown league, I actually have Dak a little ahead of him.
Dak's going to throw. He threw for 36 last season. It's a little questionable, like kind of what's going on there. Like the vibes aren't great with Lamb there. Just getting back with the team. Cooks is always a hammy injury away, wrong side of 30 as well. Yeah. I do like their third guy over there, the second or third year guy. So I like him very much on Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing: we can play a little chicken because Team 6 doesn't have a quarterback, Team 8 doesn't, and Team 11 doesn't. So there's 3 teams that could potentially take a quarterback with one of their next 2 picks, right? There are 3 quarterbacks that I'm very interested in. And then there's more that I also have interest in, but the next 3 to me are Dak Prescott, Richardson, and Jordan Love.
Yeah, Jordan Love is like next. I think he's, kind of showed what he's capable of last year. I think he's a great one. I have a lot of exposure so far. I don't mind doing it again.
Yeah.
Do I take him over Richardson? I don't know. I think that's a tough call. He's probably safer. Let's see. Does it make sense for us, since we don't have a lot of running backs? Is it kind of wimpy for us to grab Mostert for this team? Like, because we need another running back here at some point.
No, but I wououldn't necessarily do it because we already have Achane.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's too much of a handcuff.
Yeah, I'd be more into like, I don't know. I actually haven't even looked at the running back list.
Should we grab? You want to grab Love here or Richardson?
I'd rather go Richardson. I think.
Let's do it. Yeah.
The upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I
upside
got
is leading the league in in rushing touchdowns among quarterbacks,
right. So
especially when uh, Barkley's cutting into Hertz's, and who's the other one? The other the guy that quarterback that runs a lot, who's going to get his stolen as well. Oh, Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson.
sure.
Not that Lamar ran in too many last year.
No.
Josh Allen had like 15 rushing touchdowns last year. Might have
Yeah,
another.
bro. Yeah. No, he had a ton. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the case for Richardson is massive upside. So, and also like I'm okay like kind of going more upside. I'm not even that into Richardson this year, like especially in a 6-point passing touchdown league. Like his rushing touchdowns don't give you the extra boost they do in other spots. But the thing I like about a 12-team league is like there will be quarterbacks available. You know what I mean? If he doesn't work out. So for me, I'd rather just take the guy that I think has the most upside, and I do think that's him.
Check your email, by the way, because your text, because I want to see if you are on board.
Yeah, I'm like fully on board in this format, less so than half PPR, but
that's true.
Even so, I mean, yeah. I did a draft last night, and he was like part of my whole strategy. So
me too. Yeah. We'll talk about him in a second. We'll mention it here. He's a tight end, and I think he's going to be a game changer this season, at least for where he's going for the price.
Yeah.
So both those tight ends are still there. Our next two picks are going to be 104 and 113, and then 128. So, like, I'm totally comfortable punting on those top two tight ends. I don't mind trying to get in on some running back depth because I feel like it's starting to go away a little bit.
It certainly is. I mean, Mostert's gone. Pollard and Warren are gone. We're getting into this zone. I think who just went? Yeah, Jaylen Warren, who I like quite a bit. So there are definitely still some high upside flyer type of running backs in this spot. So, I think of like Tajay Spears, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, even a guy that continues to get a lot of hate, Austin Eckler. Not that young man that we're looking for, but I think Austin Eckler is going to get, and he's not going to be like he was in LA by any stretch. I mean, we're talking about the 9th round here, and he might be dust, like he might be, but I think he's going to get a decent amount of high value touches, and as like your RB3, at this point in the draft, I'm actually quite okay with him.
When I was off on Eckler last year is when he started. I love Yahoo Fantasy and
started
Barons and Pianowski. Yeah, when he started doing fantasy, I don't know. It just kind of feels like it's going to kind of hurt your mojo a little bit.
I can tell you from personal experience, and Vlad will tell you too. When you start podcasting, you are over the hill. Yeah, not great.
Yeah, and so and interesting here with these running backs coming up. Eckler, he's falling. Like he not falling. He's always been past 100 ADP.
Yeah, he's like Keenan. He's like the Keenan Allen of running backs. Like nobody wants this fat old dude. Of course.
Yeah. Devin Singletary is not sexy from a fantasy standpoint, but very solid. He was very good last year for Houston. Kind of, he was even good in Buffalo. He just didn't always get the full run. They were always doing the committee thing. He was even the pass, third down back a lot, but I think he can handle, the duties there. And so I think he's solid.
I have him ranked at 92 overall, I believe. So to get him at this spot, I think would be plenty of value. Like I don't love him, but like he serves a purpose. And we need purpose servers.
We need purpose, absolutely. Yeah. Well, let me throw in a few other names here for your consideration. And so, we talked about Eckler, we talked about Singletary. I think he's the closest thing you get to like almost pretty much an every down back. I'm sure Tyrone Tracy, Eric Gray, whatever will mix in. Eckler probably better for PPR, some, health injury. Jalen Wright. Oh, we talked too much about Singletary. He is gone. Jalen Wright would be kind of like, this is your term, right? Like a, condom and like double. Right, if we're putting on Jalen Wright for our HN, but it might not be a bad idea. Yeah. And then there's another guy who was named the top guy on his roster when everyone was drafting the other running back first. And I'm referring to Chase Brown. So Chase Brown has been going ahead of Zach Moss consistently. People think, I don't know what they think of Zach Moss, but I feel like he's been under the radar. Zach Moss, through the first 7-8 weeks of last season of 8 weeks, was the RB4. It was like McCaffrey by a lot. And then he had like a 30 plus fantasy point game. So maybe there's something there. I do think Moss is Brown is better and talented long-term.
Yeah. So Moss is actually the highest rated running back that I have left on my board. And, I'm very good with him. I think, even if Chase Brown ends up overtaking him at some point, I think, dude, he has the goal line work. He's a veteran that they trust. Chase Brown's going to have to take that, and he's got the talent to do it. But that's a team that has really put a lot on their running backs over the years. They've just fed Joe Mixon, so I'm actually quite good with Moss here.
So Moss over Eckler and Jalen Wright.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
By a decent margin for me, actually.
Good. All right, we're done. That's our RB3. And I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that he's better than Joe Mixon. I know he doesn't catch as many balls, but I think he's going to be better in the goal. Easily better around the goal line.
He was really good last year, Zach Moss was. And I've never been like a huge Zach Moss guy, but like Cincinnati's supposed to be one of the better teams in the league. I think their wins over under is like 10.5. This is a team that projects to have a lot of leads. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, the thing I like is we're not depending on him for a starting running back. Like in an ideal world, we're flexing a wide receiver, right?
Yeah. And so, first week, if we're already looking at week 1 lineups, we have a lot of options for our flex spots, right? Our 2 running backs are locked in. We know Zach Moss, they're huge favorites against the Patriots. I believe it's in New England, right? Probably get in the end zone, but who knows? It could be like 10, 9 fantasy points or 16 or whatever. But we got some good options here with, JSN and Keenan Allen. And then, by the way, in NFFC, you get the free look. So the games that are on Thursday and Friday, we get to decide after those games played if we want to get them in the lineup. And so that's the case with Xavier Worthy. And so I guess wonder what that cutoff.
And Zay Flowers.
And Zay Flowers, yep. Yeah, Zay Flowers, it's 8 points or whatever, 3 for 50. Then obviously an easy bench. But that's a good question. It's something that I think people are going to start talking about in a couple of days here when the games happen. Is like, oh, do I play so-and-so who gave me, 11.4 points or whatever? Like, what do you think with our roster construction now? Like, how many points does Xavier Worthy need to score in PPR for him to crack our lineup?
Well, it doesn't matter because he's going to catch a long touchdown. So, but yeah, let's see. If our other choice is Zach Moss, I think I'd want double digits from Worthy. Like I'd want him to score 10 plus because Moss is going to be in that spot where you're going to project him for, 60 or 70 total yards, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe a catch. And so it's really going to come down to, does he score a touchdown or not?
Yep.
And so if Worthy gets 10 points, I think I'd probably just keep him in over Moss.
Maybe. Yeah, because you're banking the points, and then you just don't. Yeah, you don't know. Of course, we look at the.
You look at your opponent, right? We'll know how Zay Flowers did. So those all play a role. Jesus, Dr. Dave had a really good swing. I hate to see that.
You got the Bowers and Prescott.
Yeah.
Combo, nice. I think not to show you up, Dr. Dave, but I got Bowers at 132 in one of my OCs, just FYI. But love you, buddy.
All right, so I don't have a tight end that I'd like to take here. I don't know if you do.
No.
So
this is the dead zone for tight ends. There's a guy I like coming up, but so if he doesn't go here, I would probably push for the condom pick, Jalen Wright for our Achane coverage,
cool. Right?
Because I feel like if something happened to Achane, it's Mostert would still be doing his thing, and then Jalen Wright would kind of step into his role. If I think it's kind of like the safe move. And I don't know, the wide receivers aren't all that intriguing unless you happen to be huge on Dontavian Wicks and that insanely talented and huge room. Like you just don't know who's going to be scoring the point. They have four guys plus Jacobs, the workhorse.
Yeah, I am big on Dontavian Wicks, and yet I think this is plenty early for Dontavian. I would have probably stand for Dowdle over Jalen Wright, but Dowdle just went.
He just went. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our alternatives are, we're not taking a quarterback again right now. There's the Trey Benson in case something happened to Connor, but we can't bank on that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like shit. I mean, receiver wise, Jordan Addison, Shaheed are the guys like I have the highest on. I don't have a big hard on for either of those guys.
I liked him. I do like Shaheed a lot, but let's grab Wright because this is a league where we want to have like 6-7 running backs.
Okay.
Even if we have good ones, and then we'll go from there. All right, we're through round 10. I want to ask you, team 8 is our boy John Fish. What do you think of his draft so far? I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's team.
Yeah, well, let's see. I mean, I really like Garrett Wilson. I don't know that I'd take him over AJ Brown, but you're kind of splitting hairs there. I'm not real big on Saquon. Love Neighbors. Like Pittman. Like Metcalf. Don't like Pittman.
And he's team 9. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, good. Then I like his team a lot more.
Right. You were trying to be nice. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, well, I like his team quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's really, really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the Murray to Harrison stack. AJ Brown's a beast. Devo's a beast. He started off with 4 really good wide receivers, and then I think if you're going to do that, Mixon is a guy that makes a lot of sense because he's just got a lot of projectable volume. So it's kind of that anchor, and then he's like throwing some darts with Ford and Quorum, and we'll see where he goes, but he's going with a wide receiver heavy build, and I think that's probably the proper thing to do. So.
Dr. Dave gave us props on the Jalen Wright pick. Actually, he said that was the right move. So it's been stamped, sealed, approved.
Damn
we got the prescription all set. Yeah. I'm Vlad Sedler, FTN Fantasy, here with the great Sammy Reid. We're drafting an NFFC OC online championship, 12-teamer, $350 entry, PPR, third round reversal, and it's a $250,000 grand prize, which we would like to. What would we buy? What would we buy with that? Other than more fantasy teams?
Whoa, with money?
Yeah, with 250K. Yeah, because we're drafting this together. We're splitting this puppy, whatever we win. So
you might just see me playing bigger poker games, man. You might see me on Live at the Bike or Hustler Live or something like that.
Oh yeah,
they are actually. This is kind of fun. There's a casino up here called Grayton Casino. It's up north about an hour and a half in Santa Rosa-ish area. And I've heard whispers that they are trying to put together a poker live stream from there in the next year or so. Just rumors, but that'd be pretty cool. I would definitely go up and jump on that if it ends up happening. So, fingers crossed.
By the way, you have a really, really entertaining, like with a twist, poker podcast for those that are into poker. If you could tell people about it.
Thanks, man. Read them and weep. I just talk about hands that I played and try to make it entertaining. It's a pretty quick pod. Try to keep them like 20-30 minutes at most. I haven't dropped one in like 2 weeks because it's been fantasy draft season. And every time I'm like, I need to record an episode. I'm like, no, I got a pod tonight. Mm-hmm. So new episode soon, but thanks for that drop. It's a little pet project of mine. I'm very passionate about poker. And so, it's a little creative outlet for me.
And you went and participated in the main event, right? Was it like a couple months ago?
Yeah. Beginning of July, I went and played the main event for the second year in a row. And it's just like, if you're a poker player, it's kind of like the mecca. You know what I mean? It's like, just there is nothing like it. And it's kind of like, you go to the main event drafts for the NFFC. And if you play them online, you're like, yeah, that's cool. It's fun, whatever. you go and you walk into that room at the NFPC and you're like, holy shit, like there's hundreds of people in this room that are just like me, that like the same things as me. And, the energy is palpable, and they're all there for like kind of the biggest prize and the most kind of like cachet you could find in the industry. And so it's like the NFPC main event, on obscene steroids, essentially.
Well, I was going to ask you, being in both main event live fantasy drafts and the main event poker, who are more pleasant people to be around?
Oh, by far and away fantasy players. Like, it's not even close. I mean, poker players, there are a lot of really smart, thoughtful poker players for sure, but they're kind of diluted within a sea of shady degenerates. Whereas I think more often fantasy players are just like fun guys, kind of nerdy, who just like enjoy the camaraderie and kind of the fun of the whole thing. And I'd way rather hang out with a fantasy player than a poker player on average any day.
So we're looking pretty good here. Lots of people joining us today, which is cool, and watching her late night draft. So I'm sure you will be able to watch it anytime. That's the beauty of the internet these days, and YouTube and all. So you can, be a semi-degenerate and watch a fantasy draft. I actually love watching them. I watch a lot of, Nelson Sousa's live streams, and they're just fun. They're fun to watch, but they're even better to like live. There's like this excitement of, you have to kind of, you're talking about it. Yeah.
I was going to stand for Dontavian Wicks here.
That would have been a great pick.
Yeah, son of a bitch teammate. I was talking all that shit about, I don't like Saquon Barkley and Michael Pittman sucks, and then he just like dunks on us with Wicks.
So it's drying up on the wide receivers.
Well, and I have really bad news for you, Vlad. You see who went before Dontavian Wicks?
That was the guy, Taysom Hill. Pick.
I do not like Taysom Hill as much as I like in a full PPR as much as half, because I think he's going to catch very few passes. So I think his touchdowns get a bit diluted. Let's decide on a pick here.
Yeah. So I mean, Purdy's the only quarterback. I think it's kind of pushing it too much for a tight end, unless the Goddard Freermuths of the world are just whatever. I do like Jordan Mason and Samaje Perine. It's maybe a little early for Perine, but really, is it? He's going to be the top fab guy. Wide receivers, we've got Lockett, we got Polk, Josh Downs. I like.
Yeah, I think it might be Polk.
Let me check his.
I have Polk the highest, but they're all really close. Him and A.D. Mitchell are really close for me, so we can put a point on that. You make the call.
Yeah, I got him.
Cool. I mean, it kind of goes against my overarching draft strategy, which is to draft 0 Patriots at all times. So that's a little tough. But I think it's fine as like a 6th guy, because I don't expect Polk to really do much at the beginning of the season. I think he's a guy that's going to be a little bit of a slow burn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit of a project. Don't think he's got a ton of upside until Drake May gets in there. It's going to be a minute, but we have the depth to be able to wait for him.
Dallas Jenkins is in this draft. He was about to take him before us. So yeah,
screw all of you guys.
This is the range, by the way, 10th, 11th round, if you want him in NFBC. And it's going to be also, he's almost better in a build where he's your backup, because if he's your starter, you're going to be disappointed on weeks where he doesn't get in the end zone. There could be games where he gets in 2 or 3 times, and you obviously want to be able to time that correctly. But I don't think you're really going to be able to do that based on matchup, like just because they're favorites, or it's like a higher, like a 46 over under against the big, it's tough to time. He's going to be a really nice to have. But again, it sounds like I'm backtracking now that I don't have him, huh?
Well, let me ask you this. What's up with all these teams with 2 tight ends already? This is just
I don't know.
Straight up boomer central. Like Dr. Dave took 2 tight ends with his first 9 picks.
Maybe
Dr. 2 tight ends with his first 7 picks.
His friends, maybe all of his friends.
Team 9 just took his second. Taysom was his second tight end. Boy, what's going on here?
Yeah. Listen, if they're all taking them now, then the guys that I like later, will be available. I don't think we're really going to have to fight for him. And it's, I mean, whatever, I'll throw him out. It's guys like Juwan Johnson, Jonnu Smith, Greg Dulcich. Like I'm, happy with those guys, not as a starter, but like as a T2 or over on the other site that's, tight end premium. But here, there's a reason why somebody like, Freiermuth and Goddard are going like, 14th round in some cases, because there's really no reason to kind of have too early in the year, unless you maybe have lighter wide receiver depth and you want to use them in the flex. You really like, their early matchups or whatever. Obviously like Mark Andrews, like the team 4, for example, the Tyreek Hill team, you're playing Mark Andrews every week, but maybe in this scenario, Jake Ferguson could be your flex over a Jameson Williams, for example.
I guess.
Yeah. And let's see. And listen, we took Polk a little early per ADP, but per the wide receiver pool that was there, I mean, he's pretty much in that range of guys like, Lockett's still there, but like Adonai Mitchell, Darnell Mooney, like that's what we're looking at.
I've Polk at like 152. So that was definitely a little bit of a reach. Yeah, I was just kind of looking at like the wide receivers, like who's left. I will say like running back wise, there's still plenty of guys that I like. Bucky Irving, I'm pretty big on. Is Trey Benson gone? I think he is.
No, he's still there. And if I'm not mistaken, way past his ADP. So here's the thing. I think if James Conner stays healthy all year, he can easily out earn his draft slot. Like the reason why, that it's baked into his ADP. I hate using the term, but hey, we're using all the terms today. Like he's going 67, 70 overall because just the concerns of him staying healthy. But when he's healthy, he's an absolute beast. But Trey Benson, if something was to happen to him, he's in a really good position there to smash in that new look offense. And Trey Benson's ADP, let me tell you, is 118. So we're looking at Benson. We're looking at, again, P. Ryan. I think you get the free look from him. I don't think there are really other running backs here. I mean, you could go Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, so I think P. Ryan is probably going to score the most points, but as our 5th running back, I would rather go for like the upside.
Let's do it. Trey Benson it is. Yeah. He never really gets this far in draft, so I think it's a good play. Yeah, 127 is his max over the last 4 days of prime times.
Sick. Yeah, we don't need a guy, who's like Samaje P. Ryan, who's like, oh yeah, he went 4 for 40 with 7 rushes for 30 yards. Like, great. Okay. We're looking to hit a home run. So
I got my I have a weekly column, the Fab Whisperer. So I put out specific bid ranges per position and prioritized each week. It comes out Wednesday mornings and helps people prepare for their high stakes fab. And I just wrote it up earlier today, and the top guys that are basically like under 90% rostered, it really is going to be a lot of Samaje P. Ryan, especially with the free look on Thursday. And then like Jordan Mason, for example, somebody that's I think maybe like 70% rostered. So those two guys are going to be kind of the top of the pool. Quarterbacks are, listen, in this format, I've seen even Aaron Rodgers undrafted, right? Guys like Geno Smith undrafted, Bo Nix and Will Levis definitely aren't being drafted. In some cases, depending on who your quarterback is, you can leave a draft with only that one quarterback. It's fine.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, and we have 2 fab periods before Sunday.
My bad, Vlad. I said Jalen Polk. We should have taken Lockett, but we already have JSN. We don't want both of those guys.
That's fine. Yeah, and there are 2 fab periods. So the one thing I recommend is if you only have one quarterback leaving these drafts, at least grab one before the weekend. Like especially like if you have a Jalen Hurts and God forbid something happens to him in the first quarter, you're taking a 0. You don't want to do that. It's better to, get your Will Levis or Bo Nix in for like, 15 points or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, this has been going pretty well, pretty fun so far. What else do we need? Any
We're
other
vibing,
teams?
bro. We're vibing.
Yeah, this is just
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna take slop at tight end. It is what it is. Like, ain't mad.
yeah. Can't be solid everywhere. I mean, Benson there in the fifth is good, and you can even consider that like a flip, right? Like with Poke and Benson.
Yeah,
So we
we
got
should.
an early Poke and a late. Yeah, let's do that. Let's consider it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Can you Photoshop the draft board for us
just
when you post it on Twitter?
flip it there.
Actually, we
Mhm.
let's see. I mean, there's still plenty of like these high upside backup running backs that I dig on. A couple of them have obviously just gone: Charbonnet, Ray Davis, Tyler Algier.
These guys that are like one injury away from being potential every week starters are interesting. I mean, you mentioned one of them, Bucky Irving, because he is a high upside rookie behind, an okay offensive line from what I recall, but the starting running back is, he's a PPR monster and all Rashad White, but very, very inefficient. I guess that doesn't matter as much in fantasy if you're getting the volume, but hey, maybe it ends up being that Bucky Irving is better. It could very well be, but you got like him, Braylon Allen, who, if I was a Breece Hall guy, I would definitely try to, grab him as a backup. Aaron Jones has been injured a lot lately. But Ty Chandler has shown some flashes. So
Yeah, dude, they like Ty Chandler. And Aaron Jones is like not a bell cow. And he's not, I don't think he's about to become one, at age 30 or whatever it is.
yeah.
So yeah,
I love Aaron Jones. He's been so good to me. There's so many years where, a couple of years where he's going in the second or third, and I take him late, and then he just kind of returns the first round value. Had a couple of those seasons, but you need to kind of like be able to move on at a certain point and just say, hey, thank you for all you've done, and now let's, like you said, move on to to the younger league.
Job well done.
We got a nice comment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say wide receiver wise, there's like here go all the guys that we're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, a couple of guys that just went that I actually like are Josh Downs, another guy that has the Q tag with him. Actually, that would have been good with our Anthony Richardson, but oh well. And then I'm back on the Rashad Bateman train. I don't care. He's only 24, and you get the free look. Maybe he goes off against Kansas City. I think when he's healthy, he's pretty damn good.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I mean, there's not a lot of receivers I like that are left. Michael Wilson's one of them. He's a guy I like taking a shot on.
Mm-hmm.
As far as running back goes, we still have Braylon Allen. We still have Marshawn Lloyd, who he's coming along kind of slowly. Is Chuba Hubbard still out there?
Let's see. How much time do we have? Let's see. We got 5 running backs. Chuba is gone. So we'd be looking at Braylon and Antonio Gibson, PPR guy. We can grab Purdy. We can grab Isaiah Likely or Luke Musgrave to go with our. We don't have Jordan Love. Never mind.
I think I'd probably go Musgrave. To me, we don't need to take him here, though. You need to make a choice. Sorry, we're running out of time. My bad.
Who do we get? Oh, the next guy on my queue. He was at the top of the queue. So I was an auto pick. We just got but we auto picked at least. I don't know. I hope you like him, but I'm a big Jalen Tolbert guy.
I'm fine with Jalen Tolbert. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why is so you've got this it's one of those things that it's not correlating to his price as far as his upside and value. It's a similar situation to last season where Brock Purdy was my QB2 no matter what in every draft. We saw what we saw toward down the stretch in the playoffs in the previous season, and all of his guys were Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, all going in the top rounds, and here he is always available in like the 17th, 18th round, and it just didn't correlate, didn't make sense. Here you've got Dallas, favorites in one of the top favorites in the league. The offense is phenomenal, defense is strong, and then you've got CeeDee Lamb, the number 1 overall pick. What if something happens to Lamb? You got Cooks is already banged up. you got these old washed veterans like Zeke and Dalvin Cook that they've signed. And I mean, who else is there, right? And Jalen Tolbert had a good preseason. I don't see why he's a bad pick in 13th.
Yeah, I will tell you the highest rated tight end I have on my board is Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, he's the next guy.
And it's not like we have to take a tight end here. I mean, like everybody's fucking got two. It's insane. But at some point we should get one.
Let me look. I'm curious as to the ADP. So I'm looking at 28 OC drafts over the last 3 days. He's next up. So we'll be picking at 161. He's next up with an ADP of 151. After that, it's Cole Kmet, who went in the 11th.
Yep.
And then you got Isaiah Likely, 166. Yeah, we could wait on Musgrave. He's 175. And then, the guys that I like are like, way down the line if we want a second tight end later.
Yeah.
Someone took Purdy already. Yeah, I wouldn't have minded to have him as a backup plan, but too late.
I honestly I'm so good leaving these drafts with one quarterback.
Another thing I like to look at also is matching up on the schedule. And I'm just out of curiosity looking to see who the Colts have the first few weeks. I mean, these are going to be some good matchups. So you've got Houston. It's already one of the highest game totals, point totals there. Then they're going to be in Green Bay the following week, and then Chicago the week after that. So those are 3 good matchups. And then they run into Pittsburgh. That might be a little tough. All right, here we are coming around the turn, and I want to. And usually with receivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7. We might even be close to maxed on receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We definitely want to get 2 more running backs. We want to get a tight end, obviously, probably 2.
Yeah.
I'm not honestly in this format. I'm not opposed to grabbing a quarterback, but I'm totally fine to wait on that. And then I don't mind. This starts to get the range in if we want like a top defense as well. I know it feels gross to take him like in the 15th round, but it's an option.
Yeah, not my MO, but I think I'd probably say take Schultz at this point.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, so let's do that if he's there on the board. If not, I think we could wait and push it another round.
Buddy, if this guy takes a third tight end to screw us, more power to him.
Yeah.
Well, won't hurt that bad, trust me.
Oh, that's nice. He took a tight end, but not our guy. All right, that's cool.
Just in case he backs up his Mark Andrews. It's
Well, he's got Lamar, so hey, listen. At some point, it'll be like a 3. This he'll be starting Mark Andrews and Likely. Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy.
Whee. All right, I'm gonna go grab something to drink. I'll be back in a sec.
All right, here we go. We are in the 14th round. 5 more picks to go for us. We're getting into the kind of the area where they're all dart throws on the wide receivers. You got the couple of guys in Cincinnati, the rookie Jermaine Burton, and Andre Iosavas is there as well. Currently the wide receiver 3. Demarcus Robinson has had a bit of helium here over the last weekend. And with Jordan Whittington actually falling, he's been undrafted in a few leagues over the last few days. And let's see, at some point we're going to want to grab a quarterback as a backup, and still a lot of guys available here. Looking at some of the builds, definitely in a little bit an oddball draft, and I think that happens a lot in. It happens a lot in the late night OCs. It's, these drafts start at midnight on the East Coast time. Some people have been up since 6 a.m. working, but we know they only have, you only have a couple more days of drafting football. So, just get in it while you can. So, yeah, here we go. Oh, Steve is in our draft. He's definitely a homie of Twitter, FTN. And no, of course you didn't take him to screw us. We like Likely too. Damn your auto pick, Vlad. Sorry, Dr. Dave. And Wesley is also in our draft here. Thank you so much for the kind words. Wouldn't go by without being able to plug the baseball stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to do the same for you in football. And of course, the man, the myth, Nelson Souza has his Nelson's notebook and his waivers bids recommendation as well. It's part of the high stakes package at FTN. FTN 15, we got one more day on that promo code. Get in there. Home of Stats Hub, home of Jeff Ratcliffe, home of Aaron Schatz, and the DVOA metric. And dude, I'm hearing Mina Kimes is quote tweeting us and in our work. Jim Harbaugh is talking about FTN data. It's really, really cool how things have been blowing up over here. So I'm pretty excited to be a part of it.
Well, we're at the Luke McCaffrey portion of the draft.
Yeah. Don't you just draft? Don't you just go for it sometimes just because he's a McCaffrey?
Oh yeah,
if it's in the blood.
Oh yeah. I mean, so one of my things in fantasy baseball is I have an unashamed hard on for anybody that was a junior of a player that I used to Vlad Guerrero Jr. I'm all in, right?
Yeah.
Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm all in. Whoever it is, any junior you throw out there, I'm going to be pretty big on him. Bo Bichette.
Except for this year.
Yeah, except for this year, maybe not the best. But I'll continue to be in. So
Tyrone Tracy Jr. is a junior. I will tell you there are two running backs that I actually like more than him, and see if you're interested in either of those guys.
Okay.
One is Tank Bigsby,
uh-huh.
and the other is Cam Akers, who to me, if he's healthy, I think is outstanding. I actually think could even be better than Mixon. But those are the two running backs. Who's top on your board?
Tracy was, but he went. So I had it. Let's see. I have Tracy. I have Marshawn Lloyd ahead of all those guys. Is Chuba Hubbard still out there?
Can't be. No, he's gone.
Okay. Yeah.
Lloyd is gone.
He went in the 10th. I'm like, man, I didn't cross him off.
Yeah. So it'd be Bigsby, Akers, Justice Hill, kind of the top guys, and it's really not a lot after that.
Did I miss? No, Marshawn Lloyd went in the 12th. I missed him. Well, we can go with your boomer tendencies here and get a DST.
Yeah, you know why? Because the way things map out this season is all the top teams, the top defenses really have tough week one matchups, and they're a tough play. All of them except for the Cowboys, who also happen to be a smash defense. And if you don't take Dallas, you pretty much have to just wait till the end and you stream for 1 week, Cincy against New England, or the Saints against the Panthers, or something like that. But
Vikings,
at least Dallas, you can kind of hold all year.
Yeah.
So you good with that?
Great with it.
All right. Cool. Yeah, and it is boomer tendencies, but there is this something about the comfort of a defense that just you can't count on pick sixes, but when you're getting the base of the points from sacks, and then you do have those hot corners that teams are down, they're way down, they're trying to catch up, and just pick six. Like Dallas is one of those teams, and when you get that, what was it, 2019 New England Patriots season where they averaged 18 fantasy points a game, it was insane.
Perfect. Yeah, and I mean Dallas, at least for the first half of last year, kind of did the same thing. And I think when it comes to fantasy defenses, it seems overly simplistic, but you want it to be from good teams, right? Mm-hmm. Because good teams are more likely to be ahead in the game, and that's where you want to be because you want the other team throwing the ball, because that's where fantasy points are scored. So, in general, it's you like a team who you think is going to win 10, 11, 12 games, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think somebody showed that literally the highest correlation of fantasy points was the Vegas spread.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
But I do like a couple of the things the Cowboys did. I mean, obviously they have Micah Parsons, and that's great. But one of the other things that they did that's pretty cool is they signed Eric Kendricks. They haven't had a good middle linebacker in forever. They had Leighton Vander Esch, who was just hurt all the time. He had all these neck injuries and stuff like that. They really haven't had a guy in the middle to kind of like bring that defense together. And Kendrick's, I wouldn't call him like an ace player by any stretch, but dude, he's been a really solid middle linebacker in the league for several years. So I like that they brought him in. I was gonna make us take Greg Dortch, so now I'm mad that Dr. Dave snaked us again. Like, it's very tilting.
Yeah, it's like the gross range here.
Yeah, Greg Dortch is just a straight up goat, is the thing.
Dortch, yeah. Whenever he play, he was a nice like min salary DFS guy.
Yeah,
always like
he's just so good.
It's like, oh, Hollywood Brown's out again. Oh, he's out on IR again. Let's play Greg Dortch.
9 more targets for Greg Dortch.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm not looking at our board, but like I'm looking for like, guys like Estime.
So we have 5 picks left. Let me tell you what we need. We can save our kicker for the end. So outside of that, which we need to get, and sorry, unfortunately, 4 picks otherwise would be another tight end, another running back or 2, and then it's between a backup quarterback or a receiver. And our 5 are hot, and then the Poke and Tolbert are kind of question marks. But
yeah, I mean, if there was a backup quarterback that I wanted to get, let's see.
So the way these boards have been hitting is, I mean, there are even some drafts, like I said, like where Rodgers isn't drafted, but he's basically, I feel like it's Rodgers and Stafford, and a lot of times the rest of the guys kind of go undrafted, like Watson has even fallen. And then, Gino will be available in Fab. So will Baker, will Levis. It becomes a point where maybe it's not worth it.
I will say this for those guys. I have like Rodgers and Stafford too. No, I have them all in a row. Rodgers, Watson, and Stafford. I have them in a row. I will say, and I freaking despise the guy, but Watson, I think, carries the most upside. If like also a lot of downside because it's not that sure that he can actually throw the ball. But I would still take a running back here.
I was going to say that it's really So because that's really thin, there's really no one else. But I got Bigsby or Justice Hill. Is there someone else that you like more?
Bigsby.
Okay.
Justice Hill has a long history of like not ever doing anything, no matter how many opportunities he has. So
that's good. That's a bad history to. That's not a good history to have.
Yeah, I'm good actually. Dot meme.
Steve is asking us if we could turn back time. If we could turn back time, would you take Fergie? And I assume he means not Ferguson. The Black Eyed Peas lady, but Jake Ferguson or Keenan Allen. I don't have any. I don't have any Fergie, and I don't hate it. I feel like because it's kind of thin there, he'll get some love, get some looks, but he's kind of a no man's land.
I think he's fine. I think I would have rather waited 2 rounds and taken, like I was hoping, Njoku, maybe Bowers instead of Zach Moss, something like that. I would have rather waited a couple rounds.
I wonder if it was kind of low key trying to make a trade with us.
Hey, bro, you
guys kind of sold me on Keenan.
No, but that's the thing. Nobody wants to trade for Keenan Allen. That's not a chance.
All right. Yeah, we're looking good here. I like the team. Even Tank Bigsby is actually, I think he is my most rostered player in NFFC because he's just always hanging around there and just getting no talk, no love. And
I think Bigsby has the potential to be like massive post hype because you remember the hype in the preseason last year. It was huge. And then he just completely shat the bed his first carry. I think he fumbled on his first carry and just never got going. And he ended up just having this spectacularly bad rookie season. And then quietly, they've really been talking him up this year. Not like they did last year, but wow, Tank's doing really good. So it's kind of this cautious optimism, but that's a good offense in Jacksonville. And if anything happens to ETN and Bigsby really has turned a corner in terms of his preparation, in terms of, the things he's doing on the field. I mean, he's a really good lottery pick, I think, at this point.
And the guy's name is Tank.
Yeah. How do you fail?
Like, I mean, you're a running back and your name is Tank.
Yeah.
Somebody in the draft room is saying, you guys talk a lot. I don't know if he's talking about the draft chat or us, but this is a live stream draft. I mean, I feel like talking is better than just sitting here.
You can always put us on mute, bro. If you just want
just-
a video of a draft board going back and forth.
Just watch the draft board.
Yeah, it's your world.
Mhm.
I can get on board. I mean, I guess we need one more.
We can get away with 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 running backs, and there really aren't any.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's somebody that like a flyer, right? Like if
I mean, the flyer honestly might be Cody Steele or Will Shipley.
Oh, I think Shipley he's still there, and then you and
Yeah,
Carson Steele, on Kansas City.
Cody Steele sounds cool too, though.
Yeah, I wonder if he's related to Justin Steele, pitcher and DFS player. Justin Steele, Chicago Cubs. What about should we take Ricky Purcell just because he's like,
just to increase the dog plus on our team? Yeah. I have a buddy who took Purcell in both of our drafts over the weekend because he's just like, man, nobody around here, nobody at this point in the draft has any dog in them. But Ricky Purcell does. I was like, can't argue with you, bro.
Isn't it like already back to practice or something crazy like that?
Yeah, there goes Estime.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have minded taking a shot on.
So
him.
What about I mean, not here specifically, but what about my three guys I mentioned to you? So Jonnu Smith had a few big games last season. Now he's in that Mike McDaniel's offense. Juwan Johnson, he scored 7 touchdowns a couple seasons ago. Back in college, used to work with Justin Herbert, and last year he was a little banged up, coming off a foot injury. I know like Taysom Hill's in his way, but I kind of like him too. And then Greg Dulcich is one of those guys. If he just stays healthy, he's going to be the running all the play. Like Adam Troutman's still there, but he's primarily like the blocking tight end. And so these guys are better, obviously, all for tight end premium leagues. They're all just kind of taking shots, but anyone stand out of those 3?
Honestly, the guy I probably like the best if he's not gone is Noah Fant.
He should be good for the game. Dealing with a foot injury, he suited up for warm-ups ahead of Monday's practice. And
Noah Fant, much like Justice Hill, has a long history of not being any good. But he's got a lot of big time like prospect pedigree, and they actually got rid of like a lot of the guys like Parkinson, I believe, who was kind of like standing in his way of getting more work. So.
We're up. We can do. Let's say there's cheat game Kenneth Gainwell. There, we talked about Ricky. He's kind of not being drafted right now. We can grab any of the tight ends. We can grab Aaron Rodgers or Watson.
I'd say Watson, man.
You want to grab Watson? Okay.
Yeah. Surprisingly high like amount of top 12 finishes, like in percentage of his starts.
Yeah. And Amari Cooper, it's another guy that's not really kind of talked about. But just
Goku. Yeah. Well, and also they're just really going to like more of a spread offense this year, which we'll see if that has to do with anything. But as far as like backup quarterbacks go, I want a guy who, again, like taking a guy this late, I just want upside. Like a guy like Stafford, who I think is really good. I think Stafford is what he is. He's going to average 260 and 2. And that's fine. That's great. You can find that elsewhere. So
we got a trade question here. I'm sorry. Just got offered Olave, David Montgomery, I assume, and Singletary for Debo and Jacobs. My only RBs are Josh Jacobs and Zeke. I was asking this guy for an Olave trade.
Well, bro, I'd say if you're only running backs are Jacobs and Zeke, you shouldn't trade away Jacobs.
Well, except for you'll be getting 2.
Yeah, but like 2 lesser ones like that. for me, that just doesn't like often work out. You know what I mean? Like being the guy who gets the more players. I do prefer Olave to Debo, but not by a ton. So, but I think Jacobs has the opportunity to like do way better for you than like Montgomery / Singletary. I personally would not.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's really 50-50 for me. I think Olave and Debo are close enough to one another in fantasy value. So yeah, for me, it's basically like a Jacobs for Montgomery and Singletary. So I think I would hold on the deal and then see what else is available on the waivers and just hope to get lucky. Maybe like a Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving type.
Yeah.
Did you see Team 6? And I know I want to definitely be polite because I saw him in the draft early, or he is watching the show, but he took 3 defenses. So he's cornered the market on defenses.
He's looking around his draft list and he's like, I don't like any of these jabronis, so I'm just gonna go with DSTs. I mean, more power to you. I like what he did at tight end though. Like he took Hawkinson and then came back with Goddard. And he went in doing it at the right part of the draft and then took Goddard before we could.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I would have TBH, I would have like snapped him where we took Tolbert.
I by the way, I blew it in my home auction league. It's in our 23rd year. We draft every Labor Day evening. And just like those type of guys, like we have an IR slot and like those type of guys, especially later in the draft, they're so cheap. Like I could have had Hawkinson for $2 and just stashed them.
Yeah.
Just stupid. Just not.
Auctions are tough, man. You never finish an auction and you're like, oh, wow, that all went perfectly. Like you just always leave with regrets. There's no way not to.
Yeah. So Dallas is definitely in on the defenses. Ironically, Dallas did not get Dallas D. We did. All right. We're taking you through the whole thing. Original plan, we're going to take you through an hour. Sammy, I'm sorry I didn't even ask you if you wanted to stay on for the whole draft, but hey, here we are.
Chilling, bro. Kids are in bed. Here I am.
Yeah, this is what takes it to the million views on
Team 3 just dicked us for Carson Steele, man. I am out of here. I'm done with the rest of this draft. I'll see you guys.
Yeah. I'm out. This is what takes you over that 1 million, viewers in a live stream draft marker is when you go that extra mile and you take it past 15 and you show them, what kickers you're interested in and, what third string running backs you like. And that's when the people stay and they reward you with the views.
Well, going down the wide receiver list, there's not a single one I want. Carson Steele went. I'm like, dude, Vaki? Laub?
Well, so I will say Gainwell is worth a shot because you get the cheat game and he catches a lot of balls. Maybe he's really the only guy. There's Trey Sermon. Like if we had Jonathan Taylor, could have been a back.
Yeah.
And that's really it. We have the backup quarterback, best receivers on. There's Noah Brown, who is the pretty much like the number 2 in Washington now. Would you rather do that or cheat game Gainwell?
I would say Vaki and then
he might be
Noah Brown's like actually. I think I can sign off on Noah Brown, man.
Let me see if Vaki is. Oh, he's got a little bit of an ADP. Like, you want to do? Which one do you want to do?
He just strikes me as a guy who's got some talent.
Let's try it.
If there's an injury on Detroit, like he could actually.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Why not? We feel comfortable enough that we're just taking some luxury picks here.
It'll make it's nice to get guys who you think are going to be easy cuts.
Yeah. And good Twitter content too. So,
yeah.
All right. Will you let me take one of my boys at tight end here?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Please.
But do take I kind of made a case for all 3 on Juwan Johnson, Jonnu Smith, and Greg Dulcich. What would be your lean?
Jonnu.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's put those 3 guys in the queue.
Although, did you see the depth chart that they released today?
No.
So Miami, and the depth charts are like notoriously like who gives a shit. But
Mhm.
Miami released a depth chart where Jonnu was not one of the top 2 tight ends, but he was
What?
listed as the number 2 fullback.
Oh man, I think they play game. I think they play in games sometimes. Like Cam Akers was listed as the 4, and there's no way that he's behind Damian Pierce. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they hate Dameon Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, I can't believe they didn't cut Dameon Pierce. I thought they were going to.
Yeah. And then at kickers, honestly, people laugh, but there's not only are there strategies here, but they're an edge. If you're just like whatever at kicker, you're gonna lose points, and points matter when you're trying to win a league and you're there in like week 13. You're like, oh, I'm so close, but man, why didn't I just spend the extra minute and make a good decision? So with kickers, it's obviously if you don't have a top one, you can stream them week to week, and a way to do that, you're looking for home teams, with strong offenses, preferably, in domes, staying away from bad weather, preferably favorites, preferably guys with a, 90% plus, hit rate on their field goals over the last couple of seasons, things like that. So,
Definitely preferred favorites, right?
yeah.
Because we've all been there where the team's down and they stop kicking field goals because they're trying to like come back in the game. So like, yeah, totally agree. Like being indoors is great, accuracy is great, but the biggest thing you want is like a favorite with a big implied team total. It's like you do that and you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, and with NFFC, these are team kickers, so you don't even thank goodness they did this, so we don't have to worry about even who the specific guy is.
Yeah,
you're just
God. So a couple of seasons ago, I think it was 2 seasons ago, or it might have been freaking last year. The Lions. So it was my little girl's birthday, and so we like had her birthday party at a little like gym, right? They like pizza and all this stuff, and I didn't take out my phone because I'm being good dad. I'm playing with the kids, doing all this stuff. And the Lions, who is my kicker, I think it was Badgley, but I can't remember. They cut him out of nowhere right before the game. And he was in my lineup in a must-win game. I think it was like week 14 or 15. So like I needed to win this game to get into the playoffs, and I took a 0.
Wow.
Because there was zero indication that they'd cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody had said anything. And I looked at my lineup like before I went in for the birthday party. Then I didn't look at it again. And I come out and I'm like, what the fuck? What? So like I'm on board with team defense is the bottom line, or team kicker is the bottom line.
It's really tilting, especially around this time of year. I mean, it doesn't have. I mean, most of the time people aren't drafting more than one kicker, so it's just like the top 12 guys, and they're pretty much set in stone. But what is nice, what is the kicker here, is the fact that we do have 4 cheat games. And of course, Justin Tucker, Baltimore, they're usually already drafted by this point. But the Eagles, Jake Elliott, that's an option.
He's very good. San Francisco is one of the highest scoring teams, and I think those are like kind of my top 2.
How do you feel about a good, like, the Niners are playing a good defense in the New York Jets? Isn't in some ways that is okay, right? Because they'll kind of maybe stall drives and force Moody to kick.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the Niners are, still have I don't know exactly what it is. It's not super high, but I still think they're like 24-25, which is decent. That's what I thought it was last week anyways. So to me, that's totally fine. Like the Niners never get shut down, bro.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they're just one of the highest scoring teams. So I'm great with them, and I'm great with the Eagles as well. I think the Eagles are going to have a really good season. I thought their offense sucked last year, and they still did okay.
Well, let's do it. It makes sense to grab the Eagles because they're the cheat game, and we have the 2 fab periods. So if they're bad, or the second fab period. So if Jake Elliott does not have a good game, then we can just pick up whoever else.
Great. The other thing, I think that's a way to play it. The other thing I like is Jake Elliott has leg. Not sure how much leg Moody has. I don't think he attempted like a ton of like long field goals last year.
He was oddly inefficient last season. I looked at it; it was something like an 84% field goal rate. which
he had a
is
tough stretch. Like he was good at the beginning, and then he had a tough stretch in the middle, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of like got it together at the end. But the fans of the Niners were a little sketch, like going into the home stretch in the playoffs. They're like, I don't know about this rookie.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he led the league in extra point attempts. So he
Mhm.
made 60 of 61, but then just 21 of 25 field goals. Whereas like the Rams, by the way, had 43 field goal attempts. Seahawks, Colts are the other teams with 40 plus last year.
Yeah. And for me, that's actually a little bit of a benefit, because you can't expect the Niners to be as efficient, right? Like to only get 25 field goal attempts for an offense that big, they were converting into touchdowns at like a super high rate that, like, we know they're going to scheme it up and they have a bunch of talent, but keeping it at that high of a rate is probably kind of tough to do.
Mhm.
So I assume that Moody will get basically more field goal attempts this year, but we're kind of getting into the weeds here, aren't we?
Hey, we can get a second kicker. And again, this is why, this is why people
no
stick around
second
at the end.
kicker. No, I won't sign off on it.
Someone in the Steve is draft in the chat. Steven asked, Pierce got cut from Texas. He did not. Pierce did not get cut from the Texans. The quote today was, apparently he'd been dealing a lot on a personal level that people weren't aware of. So of course that can always affect things. Houston, man. By the way, we didn't talk about this because he just kind of slid by in the draft. But what are your thoughts on Tank Dell?
Love him.
Yeah,
love him. I mean, I love every Houston pass catcher. That's all there is to it. Like, I really like Diggs. I really like Nico. I really like Tank Dell.
They're so good.
One of my favorite stats out of last year. I didn't come up with this. Somebody smarter than me did. But there's been only 3 quarterbacks in NFL history who have led the league in both passing yards per game and touchdown to interception ratio in the same season, right? Mm-hmm. Like high efficiency, but also yards per game. I believe it was Tom Brady in his 2007 season. And then Joe Montana did it one year in one of his heydays. And then CJ Stroud did it as a rookie. I want Houston. And Tank Dell's part of Houston. That guy's a dog. He's like
explosive.
Yeah. So, I know it's like, oh yeah, like he might be the third guy and this and that. I don't care. They're going to be going 3 wide plenty. Like that's going to be, obviously there will be weeks where Dell doesn't eat and the other guys eat and back and forth. Like that's kind of the way it works when you have 3 good receivers. But I think he's going to have enough big weeks to totally make it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge fan, big target of mine. Here, as we wrap things up, Jose, a question on Ray Davis. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ray Davis probably doesn't have, besides injury, a huge path to like overtaking James Cook. But I do think, James Cook scored 2 rushing touchdowns last year, right? He is not somebody that they particularly trust around the goal line. At least it doesn't appear so at this point. So I think that Ray Davis, assuming no injury, is a guy that they could carve out a goal line role. But based on like his draft capital and like college production, I don't necessarily like see a future superstar by any stretch. But yeah. So I'm kind of like, don't mean to give you a tepid response, but yeah. I'm not huge on him, but certainly anybody attached to a really good offense like Buffalo, who has some path is going to have some value.
Let's just say he's no Latavius Murray, right?
Obviously. The other thing we could do here is we could take. No, never mind. The Bengals went.
As far as tight ends, just kind of next on the board, if that is the direction.
Oh yeah,
just to get a backup.
Let's take a second tight end. Yeah.
Yeah. In looking at primetime drafts over the last, 3 days. Those are the ones, the $1,750 entry. Next guy on the board is Jonnu Smith at 208. After that, it's Cade Otton, who I probably will never draft. Hunter Henry, who I like, is just so tilting. Zach Ertz has been moving up a little bit. My boy Juwan, who I think people are absolutely sleeping on. And then, wow, people didn't even take Dulcich in this draft. The things people like, huh? I like the end of the draft tight ends. Like that's the shit I study.
That's the sweet spot. I would say either Juwan or Jonnu. I'm kind of
let's do Jonnu.
Ambivalent, but
let's do. You mentioned him earlier. I don't think the depth chart stuff scares me off, and I have enough Juwan on other teams that I'm good with it. All right, boom. There's our squad. Let's see what Fantasy Pros ranks us.
Probably not great. I don't know. We did get a 7th round Keenan Allen.
We did. Let's see how much that balance. And little do they know what is in store with Sion Vaki.
Oh, well,
you guys gonna
obviously.
By the way, I don't know much about him other than he's had a good camp. He's more Gibbs than Montgomery, even though I know those are tough comps.
Yeah. To me, I just see him. He's got some juice, and so I see him as a guy that could potentially like be the out of nowhere player, right? If there's an injury, I think he probably doesn't get any run if there's no injury. But if there is, and Gibbs has already dealt with a little bit, so maybe some chance of re-injury, something like that. But if there was an opportunity, I think he's dynamic enough where they might give him an opportunity. And it's just an offense that I'd like to draw lotto tickets from.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs, I love the guy. He was phenomenal last year, especially how much crap so many of us got for drafting him where we did, in the early third or whatever it was. And he just, didn't work out early on. And then he just smashed. And every game it was like 5 to 8 catches and then touchdowns here and there. But I'm always so on edge watching him because I'm always just so afraid he's going to get hurt. So,
well, I mean, even last year, both Montgomery and Gibbs got injured at a point, and it's like guys like Craig Reynolds, and I think there's even a 4th guy who's getting some run back there. So it's just a team that kind of smashes on offense. So I think taking just lotto tickets from an offense like that is kind of just as a strategy a thing to do. Curious to see what Fantasy Pros thinks of this squad. Probably don't like our tight end situation a whole lot.
And love them on all, but also we don't care because we know our stuff. We'll see. It's all about, I think what carries us here, just going back to the top of the board, is that start. And I think the key to our team
we got Robinson and Achane.
Woohoo! Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Thanks for scrolling back up, man. Because we were looking at the bottom and I'm like, I don't know. This kind of sucks. Yeah. But once you scroll up, man, this is really good.
Yeah. Achane is the key. He's the key, right? He's the key to our team. He's going to drive us one way or the other. So we'll see.
Strong.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for joining us almost 2 hours here on this live stream. The chat was bumping in our draft room here. Had a few questions on the YouTube. We appreciate it. So where do people follow you on over on Twitter?
At Sammy Reid FI on Twitter, the Read 'em and Weep Poker Podcast, and starting Sunday on the Roto Grinders Podcast Network, me, Davis Maddock, Nate Noling will be back with everyone's favorite tilt show, the GoCast.
Excellent. What's that, like the 8th season or something?
Yeah, it's been a long freaking time. Dude, I mean, Davis is married. Nate had a kid. People are buying houses. I mean, it's we're getting old, man.
We're growns up and we're growns up, like Vince Vaughn from Swingers would say. Sammy Reid, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Vlad Sedler at RotoGut. FTN Fantasy, NFFC, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Good luck this season.